Good evening, friends, fiends, and night owl supremes. Welcome to A Bit Late, where tonight I have a wonderfully autumn fairy tale for you, well, Halloween specifically. It's called The Courteous Prince, and it's quite a gem of a fairy tale. It has a prophetic witch, or an interfering meddling witch, which I love. It also has a haunted, shall we say, abandoned building in it. There's a prince, of course, it's in the title, but some other cool things too. So, summon your familiars, get comfy and cozy, turn on your fairy lights, grab a cup of tea or whatever you need to get settled in for this cozy autumn story, The Courteous Prince. Once upon a time, a bonny prince fell in love with a lassie who was nobly born, but was not his equal in rank. Drat. The king was sorely vexed because his son looked with favour on this maiden, and his majesty was determined to part the lovers. He sent the high chancellor of the court to an old witch for advice. After thinking the matter over for 9 days, the old woman muttered the following answer: "The lassie I will charm away, till courtesy doth win the day." "I'm not quite sure what that old hag means," said the king, "but if she'll get this maiden out of the prince's sight, I can arrange for his marriage with some other one of his own rank." I love fairy tales and how you know he's gonna get fooled in some way right off the bat. I love it. In a few days, the lassie disappeared, and the prince could find no trace of her. He was very sad indeed and declared that if he could not marry his own true love, he would remain single all his life. It happened one fine day near the end of October that the young prince and a party of nobles went hunting. The hounds were soon on the track of a fine deer, which was so wily and fleet of foot that the nobles, one by one, lost track of the quarry and dropped out of the chase. The young prince, who was a famous rider, of course, continued the hunt alone. Miles and miles over low hills he galloped, until at last, in the depths of a wooded glen, the exhausted deer was brought to bay by the hounds and dispatched by the prince. Okay, well, that's a very kind and quick way of saying that. Not until after the prize was won did the royal hunter realize how dusky it was in the glen and how threatening the evening sky looked. He felt sure he was too far from the palace to retrace his journey. Besides, he had lost all trace of direction. He threw the quarry over his steed's back, whistled to his hounds, and rode slowly down the wooded valley, wondering where he could lodge for the night. "A little sign of hospitality in this lonely place," he mused. "Perhaps I'd better make the best of it and find shelter in one of the rocky hollows." On he rode in the gathering darkness. A turn in the valley brought him to a stretch of moorland, and a little distance away he saw the dark outline of an old, deserted hunting hall. A cheerless-looking inn, thought the prince. It's a hunting hall and it's empty. No doubt one will have to play host as well as guest here. However, I have my trusty hounds and my noble steed for company, and the quarry will furnish a good meal for all of us. He leaped from his horse and walked up to the old ruin. With very little effort he broke open the door. The creaking of its rusty hinges made strange echoings throughout the hall. The prince led his horse into one of the rooms. Then with his hounds he went into the large dining hall, where he lit a fire on the great hearth and proceeded to cook some of the venison for supper. While he was waiting for the meat on the spit to roast, he listened to the rising wind, which moaned about the gloomy old room and rattled doors and windows unceasingly. The good steed in the adjoining room pawed at the floor restlessly, and every few moments the hounds stretched their heads straight up into the air and whined in a most uncanny way. Something's on its way. As he mused before the fire, the prince thought, "This is all Halloween, the night when ghosts and witches hold their revels. Nevertheless, I'd rather be in this deserted hall than on the windswept moorland." Brave one he is. He took the roasted meat from the fire and prepared to eat his supper. Suddenly a fierce blast of wind burst open a large door at the far end of the hall, and into the room stalked a tall, ghostly woman. Her lank figure was clothed in gray garments which trailed for yards on the floor. Her long, gray hair hung loose down her neck. By the light of the flickering fire, the prince could see her hollow eyes and wan features. He was a brave man, as we have said, but this ghostly creature filled him with dread and horror. The hounds drew up their bones of venison and crept closer to their master, who was unable to utter a word. Slowly down the hall, the gray ghost glided to the prince, and, pointing a long bony finger at him, she asked in a hollow voice, "Art thou a courteous knight?" In a trembling voice, the prince answered, "I will serve thee. What dost thou wish?" "Go ye to the moorland, and pluck enough heather to make a bed in the turret room for me," said the phantom-like figure. It was a strange request to make, but the prince was relieved to have any excuse to get out of her sight. He sprang quickly to his feet and hurried out to face the stormy night in search of heather. He plucked as much as he could carry in his plaid and returned to the hall where the ghostly visitor was waiting for him. She led the way down the room and up a half-ruined staircase to the turret room. Here, the prince spread a heather bed for her and covered it with his plaid. So courteous. When it was finished, she pointed to the door and dismissed him. "May you sleep well," said the prince courteously. What other way would he say it, right? Then, cold and weary, he descended into the hall and lay down to sleep in front of the dying embers of the fire. And so time passes. When he awakened, the bright sun was shining in the windows. The prince lost no time in making ready to depart, for he remembered quite well the ghostly visitor of the past night. "No doubt she departed before the crowing of the cock," he said. "I wonder if she left my bonny plaid in the turret room. The autumn air is keen and biting. I'll go and see." He ran quickly up the ruined staircase. To his surprise, when he reached the top, the door of the chamber opened, and there before him stood his lost sweetheart. Oh, what a wonderful Halloween present. And how, unexpected. "How camest thou here?" gasped the prince. "And where is the grey ghost?" "Last night I was the grey ghost," said she. "And thou wilt change thy form again tonight?" he asked in horror. I like it. "Never again," said the maiden. "In order to part us, a wicked witch threw a spell over me, a spell which changed me into the awful shape thou sawest last night. But thou hast broken her wicked charm." "Tell me how," said the prince, whose face was beaming with happiness. "The witch's charm could not be broken until some knight should serve me, even though my form was horrible. By thy courtesy thou hast broken the spell," said the maiden. He was a prince, not a knight. Anyway, so the prince and his true love rode away and were happily married. And when the king heard of his son's adventure into the hunting hall, he said, "Now I know what that old witch meant by her prophecy." The end of the chivalrous fairy tale, The Courteous Prince. What a perfect fairy tale for spooky month, October, All Souls, everything. Not only was he in a abandoned, I won't say haunted castle on Hallows Eve, but he met a ghost who was his lady love. But my favorite part of this fairy tale has to be when the old witch, not that she cursed the maiden, but that she kind of knew that this was going to come back to bite the prince's father, the king, in the behind with her little prophecy. Oh, I love it so much. I love it. So yeah, this fairy tale has it most. There's a witch, there's Halloween, there's a happily ever after ending, but there's no cat. But we can always pretend. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed this fairy tale and are having a wonderful spooky season, whether it's for real or it's just in your heart. But for now, off to sleep and dream what you will, or stay a while and enjoy another tale. Whichever you choose, I'll speak to you again, and until then, stay spooky, my friend. Good night.